Welcome to a new season, season 6
Season 6.
of TNT Radio. If you're just joining us, thanks for joining us. And if you're coming back, great to see you. And great to see you, literally, in this case. For those of you who are maybe newer to the show, what we like to do here is explore and celebrate the full-length album. You know, the thing that you would play from start to finish. We'd like to talk about those albums from across musical genres, eras, and communities. It's a format that Tan and I believe is sort of lost in today's algorithmic, digitally oriented musical landscape. So each month, we're going to take you through a collected work and dig into its story and uncover its impact on society and time. This season on TNT, we're on a journey of discovery as always, and we'll be highlighting the incredible music and art that thrives in countries and places that are most often associated with war, conflict, and social strife. So to start us off this season, we have the debut release from Palestinian-American composer, producer, and sound artist, Omar Ahmad. We'll be talking about his 2023 AKP Recordings release, Inheritance. And to start us off, we're going to listen to a taste of the 5th track on the album, Losing a Friend.
So really, how did you come across this? Because you kind of brought this to me and to the show, and this whole idea of talking about war and strife and how that creates and how that affects culture and music. Like, how did this idea come out, and specifically for this album, how did that?
Yeah, totally. I mean, the idea is sort of the conceit for the season came out just because, you know, as I alluded to, like there's so much fucked up shit happening in the world, and there's so many countries
Really?
going through something. Yeah,
I'm just
it's
coming
wild.
to light now.
I know. Well, yeah. I just thought it would be nice to talk about some music, some art that has come out of some of these places that people may not have ever heard or
Right.
certainly don't associate with, you know. So you'll see as we go throughout the season, folks. There's some stuff here that is pretty surprising, but it's fun. It's really cool. So
It
I
could
basically
get
just
dark.
wanted to like help, you know, slightly change the narrative about some of these places.
Yeah.
The press release that AKP put out when this album came out in July of 2023 was pretty interesting for a couple of reasons. One, they sort of talked about the idea that it's an enveloping orchestral ambiance that gives way to hypnotic Arab polyrhythms, dewy and playful nostalgic electronica, and shines a bright light into the dark depths of experimental meditations. Someone went to journalism school. I like that. That's good.
Yeah, the sound art and the composer-producer practice, but also trying to make it more of the time, right? And trying to regurgitate that, and how do you really make it introspective for the listener and yourself?
Yeah.
So he's really putting a lot of reflection within himself into the work,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. And, you know, another thing in terms of like him putting himself into the work is that, you know, he talks about the presence of his grandmother on this album.
Right, yeah, I see the notes here.
Yeah. It's as if we did a little bit of work on this before we started talking. It's so weird. There's a quote here which he's speaking about his grandmother, and he says, "She was an incredibly entrepreneurial and tough seamstress from East Jerusalem. She made a lot of amazing dresses in traditional Palestinian weaving, which takes a particular style that is local to that area. And there's this little street named after her in East Jerusalem as well."
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, she obviously played a pretty significant role in his life up to this point.
It's so hard to find this information now, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, this album in particular, like, really is like a listen to top to bottom. Like it.
Right.
It takes you. It does. I feel like it does. You know, it sounds cliche, but it does take you on a journey.
Right,
You
it
know,
does.
There's
Yeah.
parts of it that are very low key and very quiet.
Yeah.
And then there are parts that are dancey. There are parts that
Yeah.
are more upbeat. Like my first impressions is like I was like, oh man, this is much more ambient than I thought it was going to be, because
Right.
there are pieces of it that feel so atmospheric and so natural, in a way in which, like, you know, you mentioned floating points earlier. Like the only other time I've thought that in recent time listening to someone described as like an electronic musician, like a dance musician,
Right.
would be floating points.
But yeah, like, it's very self-reflective. It's very natural. It's very top to bottom, listening from the beginning to end.
Yeah.
It's very ethereal to me. It's what came to me is natural, ethereal, and nature. Right. Those are the 3 words that really got me thinking about myself and how I fit into that, but also how does the album fit into the larger context of our whole season 6
Yeah.
theme, essentially. You
Yeah,
know,
absolutely.
And Nicholas Jar and Floating Points. That's another.
Who's
art-
Nicholas Jar? You mentioned
He's
this.
also a Brooklyn.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's also artsy.
I'm
Brooklyn.
unfamiliar.
Yeah, we should actually do an album on him.
Okay.
Actually, we should definitely do it. I'm surprised we haven't done
So
it
you're
yet.
saying a musician rebelled against his parents? And
Yeah, as
did
an
his own
artist.
thing? Okay, all right. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So just out of my first impressions, the first 2 tracks that really like came to light for me was the first track that we played, track 5, Losing a Friend. Out of that one, I really thought that was, no pun intended, jarring, because it was just kind of like choppy, you know. It's definitely like losing a friend. Like out of the other tracks, they're very smooth and very rolling.
Right.
And then the other one was named Ursa. It was track number 6, and what I wrote here reminds me of early 8 p.m. start time, getting ready for the club, very existential, very reflective. So if he comes from a DJ kind of S culture, and I'm just kind of like, okay, where would you play this track?
Right.
And where would I play this track
Yeah.
if I were to play it out?
Yeah.
So I listened to it. I don't know. I want people to listen to it and
Yeah,
see
absolutely.
where it fits into your space, because the questions that he's asking the audience and his listeners is really self-reflective.
Yeah. There's a huge article on Resident Advisor about him.
Yeah.
And it talks about, in that article, it talks about how he has a desire to derive the essential elements of sound and how it's grown towards more found sound immersions. So, you know, this idea of natural nature, that type of thing. I think that really comes across.
Yeah.
And he, you know, then it goes on to talk about how it's a globally influenced musical styling and storytelling, and like creates a lush atmosphere. And I think that's like, I think that just confirms what you. I wish it
His
was
upbringing
honestly, I
is-
wish it was longer. If I had to say anything, I would say like,
how long is
there's
it?
only 8 tracks. I mean, it's 35 minutes, but like
35
there's only 8
minutes,
tracks. Like I could, it basically like sets you down and like gets you like ready to listen.
Right.
And then I feel like it ends. I'm like, oh damn, I wish there was more.
Well, that's what
But, you know, he's
that's
gonna-
what you kind of want, right?
Yeah,
you
I guess
kind of
you
want
wanna-
always. You kind of always want more. But you
right.
always don't want to give it away.
That's right. We're gonna leave him on a cliffhanger.
Like right now. See you later.
Also, in that Resident Advisor article, they talk about how he uses like this incredible combination of instrumentation and then live manipulation as well. And the reason why is to basically create like a proto-genre, what they say is a natural atmosphere that envelops his audience in a dark, ritualistic sense of community. That's
Yeah,
the
that's
dark,
pretty-
ritualistic sense of community is
Yeah.
like, that's a dance floor, right?
Yeah,
Is
I
that-
think
I've never heard of
that
that
is
term.
a dance floor. I think there's a quote that he says. I'm trying to find it in the notes, but he
Yeah.
says that like he wants people to lay down, run, or however you
Interpret
engage
it.
with it. Yeah, interpret it or engage with it, and do it as you will. But as long as you self-reflect in this, that's what I got from that quote. I'm trying to find what he was trying to say, but it'll probably come up later.
I'm sure. And just to note that another new fun thing we're doing this season is that we're gonna put all the tracks that we play in the show, we're gonna put them on a playlist that everyone can access. So if you're a listener, we'll put them in the show notes on YouTube and on Spotify and Apple and all that shit. And you can go through and check all this stuff out.
Pick and choose.
Yeah, absolutely.
Discovery, right?
Absolutely. That's the whole thing. To dive a little deeper into some of the themes of this album, one thing that comes across, I think, inherently, but then also explicitly in this article in Resident Advisor is the idea that Omar kind of finds himself feeling as a quote-unquote third culture musician.
Right.
And by that he means he's often trying to find himself, he often finds himself, rather, looking to voice his own state of being caught in between movements and never fully belonging to a singular sound or an ideology.
Well, let me just kind of break it
ahead.
down while you do that,
Yeah.
because essentially, like third culture. This is actually the first time I actually heard about this. Actually,
Yeah.
I Googled it with Gemini AI. Unfortunately,
You can Google without AI.
I Googled without AI, but it just was forced upon me. But anyways, third culture musician. The definition that I spat back out refers to a culture that is influenced by 2 or more cultures and is not the same as either of the original cultures. So we were talking about this yesterday, preparing for the show or whatever, and essentially we were talking about my background and others. And it's like identifying as second generation, third generation.
Yeah.
So he's identifying as a third culture. And the term is often used to describe children who grow up in different culture than their parents' culture. So
That makes sense then.
he was born here, and he is pretty much playing between two cultures, a very, I would say, this is my own words here,
Sure.
traditional or older parents structure, and then this new other landscape, cultural landscape.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, totally.
in that sense.
And he actually, kind of when he's talking about the album, I found a quote that he was saying like, it's actually too rhythmic for the ambient heads, and it's too ambient for the rhythmic heads. So that's another thing of being stuck between two things.
Yeah, but
Two different movements, two different ideologies.
yeah,
And then he goes on to say about his identity. He says, I'm quoting him here. He says, "I'm definitely too Arab to be considered the average American,
Right.
and too American to be considered the average Palestinian."
Yeah.
So he definitely feels like the push and pull of kind of this idea of not only third culture, but his own identity, be it his musical identity or his personal identity.
Yeah, the paint that he's offered, right, to color his story or whatever, So the rhythmic part and the ambience, it's the silence. Like I feel like the silence may be like this void that he's trying to fill, and this rhythmic part that he already has from his cultural background. So just bringing up the fact and sharing light on it is empathy and disconnection, loss and discovery, longing and isolation. And he kind of prefaces by, while not claiming to provide any answers, the work grants the listener an opportunity to run, dance, lay on the floor in stillness and reflect on their own connection to the greater fabric we're all woven into. So that was the quote that I was trying to find earlier. And these questions, he explicitly writes it in the PR, the press release, like, when you're listening to this, reflect on this, because you can only say so much with music. Right. Music is very abstract, and music is very subjective.
Right.
So to have a written accompaniment to his musical language is can't get more clear than that. Really, honestly, to tell the truth, because what's really prompting him to ask those questions, really, at the end of the day, like empathy and disconnection, empathy against understanding his connection with his grandmother and the passing, or the disconnection from that, right? Or the loss and discovery of this identity, the longing, isolation, like pandemic, right? So it just gives me
he referenced it.
Goosebumps just thinking about it.
Omar, you really got that.
The inconsistency of memory and shaky concepts of self are two recurring themes that hopefully bring the listener to not only ponder as an adult, but also to engage with their inner child throughout the listening process. So I think that's what music kind of serves, along with like all other art. That's my personal opinion, that it's you're trying to find a little bit of yourself. Right, and then within the music of him creating it, he's offering a little bit of his perspective, obviously, to the audience, and he wants that reciprocation. Yeah, and that goes to the larger theme of where he's positioned as an artist, and the whole political landscape, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Different stuff like that. And he also talks about like being someone who suffers from being too committed to a concept, and so basically he was like hunting for sound bites. And he was doing less hunting for sound bites and more time watching videos. So he said in that process, a few things came across. So the samples that felt like tender moments or hilarious like life events, he said that doesn't necessarily drive home the intensely clear message, but instead invites the listener into like the more intimate, more relatable and real nature of his upbringing. And then he says, many writers try too hard to make sense of life to fit a singular narrative. And he said that frustrates him. So different samples that he used on this album, and I believe we heard some of these in the last song we heard, Gesso. One sample is his father in the West Bank visiting the land of his grandparents. Another is his sister's announcing his birth to his father and mother on video camera, and then speaking to his grandmother.
Wow.
And then there's another one of his grandmother talking and telling the kids what she had built for them. And the last sample apparently on the album is of his parents' wedding tape. And there was a singer named Eid Hamdan. Apparently he crashed the party just to plug his own brand and obnoxiously make everything about him, which Omar says is a not uncommon occurrence in the more patriarchal and archaic parts of Arab culture.
Damn.
So you can hear it. Some of this stuff does sound like home videotapes.
Yeah, and this is where the found sound or field recording,
Exactly.
sound art comes into play, right?
Yeah.
I think being an artist, you kind of not do it because you have to stay current, but it's also self-reflective in what
sort of not only is land something that we have taken from nature,
Right.
like it was never anyone's to begin with. It was nature's. So kind of moving past that, because just the way in which the world works, I think it's more so. I'm more interested in the people. I'm less concerned about
that's
a
true.
border. I'm less concerned about a quote unquote government. I'm less concerned about like identifying in that way. I think people are the things that make up. What I would say, not only not land, but communities.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like totally unrelated into what we're really talking about today. But like they talk about that a lot in like punk.
Yeah.
They talk about like the responsibility of the kids coming up today to like not abuse the spaces in which these things take place in. So like DIY areas, DIY spaces, even just local smaller clubs.
Yeah.
There's a whole song by Adam and his Package about not being an asshole and like destroying the venue for no reason just because you think it's like quote unquote punk rock.
Right.
And so ideally, in my opinion, like the elders, if you want to call them that, I guess that's us, are not passing down all the bullshit and all the trauma and all like the whatever. Of course that inherently sort of happens, but like for me, it's like you're trying to teach the people, and not like trying like actively necessarily, but like you're trying to
telling a story,
provide an example of how to engage in this in a way that is good for everyone, in a way that makes everyone feel like they're welcome. And that's like swiftly more of like a punk rock type of thing.
Okay, so
a great quote about that when talking about that party.
Yeah.
And it's really kind of fitting with what we're doing here this season, I'm not gonna lie. He says, a lot of these regions, the Arab world, Africa, Latin America, in particular, are regions where there's been so much great suffering and co-opting of their cultures and appropriation of their cultures. So to be able to let the music breathe and pay homage to the artist directly, rather than listening to a deep house track with some random Arab vocal in the background by some random dude playing it, like some random like Finnish guy or whatever, like playing it. He said that's kind of the goal.
Yeah.
So we see you, Omar. We see you.
Yeah. It's.
You mentioned earlier this album came out on AKP recordings. So AKP is
Los Angeles based.
Yeah.
They're like kind of studio art, multidisciplinary.
Yeah, it's kind of run by one guy who has a. He said it's a creative hub for experimental music and visual art. So they strive to be a champion in the art community, pushing limits of ambient.
It's studio first. It would say studio first, and there's like an offshoot of recording.
Yeah.
So
and they have a pretty well-written and I think meaningful equity statement on their website in terms of like how they're trying to engage different artists, what they're trying to do with the label and with the music.
Right.
And I think that's really great. And so hopefully we'll see more stuff.